time and accepting to moderate the session. And we have our speaker, Dr. T.S. Srinath Kumar, with us. So over to you, Dr. Dilip Rangarajan, and you may take over. And thank you all the participants for your time.
Much for the introduction. I'd like to welcome all for this Anbai teaching webinar. We have a distinguished speaker today. First, I will do an introduction of the speaker and then of the topic. We have Dr. T.S. Srinath Kumar, who is a senior consultant, head and group coordinator, Department of Emergency Medicine, Narayana Hridayalaya. He is also treasurer of International Federation of Emergency Medicine, a special advisory board member for DNB Emergency Medicine, and also the National Academic Coordinator for ANBAI. So we are honored to have you here to deliver your talk on interpretation of X-ray. A brief introduction to the topic. See, X-ray, just as we all know, as most of the students jump and say, yeah, lung fields are clear. There's more to it than what meets the eye. Whether it's a left, right, AP or PA view, whether it's an inspiration or expiration film, whether the rotation has happened, whether there's adequacy of inspiration while the film was taken, how was the penetration of the beam, and how was the exposure. After telling all this, next we look at the details of the X-ray, where it's not only the lung fields, but we look at the trachea, we look at the mediastinum, we look at the hyla, we look at the bones, look at the soft tissue, heart, diaphragm, the pleura, as well as the lung fields, and of course the gastric air bubble. So there's more to it than just looking at the lung fields alone. So I now hand over the mic to Dr. Srinath, who will enlighten us. I believe he'll give a talk, and then he has got some spotters also for the students to diagnose. Over to Dr. Srinath.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your kind introduction. I heartily welcome all the residents and other colleagues to this ANBAI weekly program on basic science lectures. It's an honor to be with ANBAI, and being a national academic coordinator for ANBAI, it's my privilege also to welcome you all for this class on interpretation of chest X-ray. Just a few minutes, we will be taking into this one. I hope all are able to see the screen, and
yes, sir, it's visible. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I request all of you to be on mute, and then whatever questions you have, you can put it into the chat box. We will ensure that we finish all your questions, and then we'll leave the class. And I'll take approximately about 40 to 45 minutes, and then we'll also see some spotters. I always believe in having an interactive class rather than one side speaking. So all residents, please be sure that you're on your fingertips so that you can answer in the chat box, and then we can take it lively. So this is what, when you look into the radiograph. So when you see any X-ray film, these are the 5 things which you will be seeing into. The first one is your air, which is black in color, you can see here. And the second one is your fat, which is less than black. And the third one is your blood, which looks white in color. And the muscle, which looks in between blood and the muscle. You can see the color here. And the bone, you can see it will be whitish. And barium, nowadays we don't much use, but still if you get to use, this is how it appears. So these are the things which we have to keep in our mind whenever we are seeing an X-ray, and that is how you can inculcate into your presentation whenever you're asked to look into any X-ray. So keep bearing all these things in your mind, then we'll go into the next slide. So what are you going to learn today? You're going to learn today about the chest X-ray, which we are day in and day out, we keep telling in all our hospitals. Let it be in your emergency department, let it be in your ward or in your ICU, anywhere you go. your first thing what we ask is the X-ray. So many a times we miss out a lot of things. And the second important thing is we keep ordering for investigations and we forget that to see the report. That should not happen. Whenever you have ordered something, you please note it down and then you have to follow it up with the staff and also the reports. So these are the things which you are supposed to look into. And when you look into an X-ray, that's a very important thing that, like last time when I said you about the ECG, there is a systematic approach. Same way the chest X-ray, you have to first look into whether it is a chest X-ray or not, first thing, and then identify the view, which I'm going to show you how you have to identify. Third thing is exposure. Many a times you may not get a good film. Without a good exposure, you cannot identify the abnormalities. It's always been said, even my teachers used to say me that what you do, your eyes don't see on what nothing else. In the same way, when you don't know about a normal film, then you cannot comment about an abnormal film. Then you have to look into the position of the film and then any other things which have been included into it. So these are the things which you are supposed to look into when you're looking to an X-ray. And you can look in either from outside to inside or inside to outside. So when you're looking from outside, what are the things you're going to look is your soft tissue, that is the outer cover. So you look into your soft tissue, then your diaphragms, which you can see, then you can see the bony cage, that is the ribs and the scapula. All these things form. And then you should also look into both the shoulder joints. So these are the things make up a good film. First you look into the soft tissue, then the bony cage, the ribs, scapula, the shoulder joint. And then the diaphragm, look into the diaphragm where it has been placed, and then the angles, costophrenic angle or cardiac angles, all these things you have to look into. Then fifth one is your lung tissue, which you are supposed to see whether there is any changes or what kind of a changes it is. Then the heart, cardiac shadow, and lastly, any life supporting devices, especially you are in the critical care units. Let it be your endotracheal tube or centralized catheter or whatever, what else you have placed in it. So this is what is the most important thing. So you have to know whether the patient was taken on supine position or sitting position or standing position. So that is the first thing which you have to note it upon. Then whether the X-ray belongs to the same name and the same patient which you have ordered for. That is what is your IPSG, International Patient Safety goal. That is what you are supposed to look into also. And then looking for the MRN numbers. Like many a times what happens is many patients' names can be the same, like Ramesh or Suresh or something like that. So the important part is the medical records number or your inpatient number or the outpatient number, whichever you're looking in for. And then the date and time, because you may have to compare the previous films with the present film. So these are the things which is very important as a starting point. And then whether the left and the right markers placed correctly. You can see whether the left or the right markers placed correctly, and then whether this patient has a real dextrocardia or not. Or sometimes you may be putting the film backwards and may be confused. So that should not happen. And the projection, which is important, whether this patient, you have taken a posterior anterior view or an anterior posterior view. So these four things you have to keep in your mind whenever you're seeing an X-ray. So then your assessment of the exposure quality. So what are you going to look into your assessment? So you see here, this is here what has happened is the number of photons which have been going into the body is less. That means that when they're setting for every X-ray, the X-ray technician usually fixes certain amount of photons to be hit into that particular body. He knows exactly how much to be hit across, and only then it gets exposed properly. So this is how you have to take the film and see. This is an underexposed film where you see everything in white. You cannot make out any kind of a differences. And you can see this is the overexposed film. Both are not useful for you. So this kind of a film is not at all good for you, and you have to ensure that you have to get a good normal exposed film. So this is what is an important thing first and foremost. Whether, and you can write accordingly whether it is an underexposed film or overexposed film or it is a normal exposed film. So these are the first things which we look into. Then what are the views you ask for a chest X-ray? All of us ask for a chest X-ray. We forget that what kind of a view we want. So when you're entering the basic thing, that is your chest X-ray, please mention what kind of a view you want. If it is a normal a patient and you are getting to get a radiograph in the radiology department, it's always good to have a PA view rather than any other views. And until and unless it is warranted, you can order for other views. Normally, we have four types of views in kind of a chest X-ray. First one is your anterior-posterior view. Second one is your posterior-anterior view, lateral view, and an oblique view. So every view we are going to look in for how it has been taken and how you can differentiate in your department. So that is also important to know, because some of the films can show heart as a larger shadow and some of the films can show lung as a smaller shadow, which is not correct for you. So you have to differentiate all these things. So the PA view, where is the patient and where is the film? You can see here. So the film is posted kept in front of the patient, and the photons have been pumped. The X-ray machine pumps the photons from the back. So this is what is the PA view. So this is how you're going to get a PA view. So what is important here is you can see the heart and the mediastinum are closest in the PA view. So exact size and contour is always obtained. That is what I was telling you. When you want to visualize a normal chest X-ray or you want to differentiate an abnormal chest X-ray, it is better to make the patient to sit and take even in your critical care units. Until and unless you cannot take the X-ray in the sitting position or standing position, only then you are warranted to take a supine X-ray. So this is what is a PA view, and this is how you can notice upon. Now the AP view, how it is taken is, you can see here the patient is lying supine and the film is placed back and the X-ray photons come from the front. So this is the difference between the PA view and the AP view. The tube is placed anteriorly, you can see here. And the cassette, which is black in color, is placed in the back. And this is usually been taken in the ICU patients, which are bedridden or unresponsive patients, where you cannot make them sit across. And here what is the problem is you cannot make the mediastinal cardio, mediastinal contour. So you are unable to say about or comment about the cardiac. Of course, you may tell me that today most of the places in critical care areas you have an ultrasound machine which you will be using, but still, as we have to know that X-ray is important, chest X-ray is important, which has to be stored, and we all can view it every day. That is why you have to note it across. Then lateral view. So you can see where is the cassette? Cassette is in one side, and the other side the photons are being pumped in. So this is how the lateral view is taken upon. And what is the thing is, you can identify two sets of ribs, that is right or left. And the lateral film 3D view, post and medial mediastinum. You can see like this. You can see here the two sets of ribs you can see at least when you pass the film. So why do you take this one? Why this particular view is important is because whenever there is a minimal pleural effusion which you cannot identify in a PA view or an AP view, this can be picked up on a lateral view. So that is the difference between a PA view and the lateral view. So you all have understood. So this is what is important. Whenever there is a minimal pleural effusion which cannot be detected by AP or PA view, you can order for the lateral view. Now, what are the hidden areas which has to be seen upon? You can see that there is a lung apex, and then behind the heart and below the diaphragm. So these are the things which you can see see the things. So, and then what is important is whenever you are looking in for, these are the areas which you have to capture upon. So like if you are suspecting a patient of that there is a perforation or anything in the GI system, you can see the free air which has to be picked up just below the diaphragm. And behind the heart, you can pick it up. These are the hidden areas. And many a times, this particular area, lung apex, which is important to diagnose the tuberculosis, you have to watch upon. So these are the things you have to keep in your mind. Lung apex, behind the area, and below the diaphragm, which are hidden areas. So what is the oblique view? You take the oblique view only in few conditions like achalasia cardia, or to eliminate any superimposed lesions. Like you have a mediastinal lesion and also you have a pleural lesion. So differentiating that will be difficult on a PA view or a AP view. So in these conditions, you can take an oblique view. So here you can just tilt the patient a little bit or facing to the cassette, and then the photons have been pumped in. So you hit the patient across obliquely, so you can see the view like this. This is how you're going to see the view, and this is what is a film you're going to get in. So where it is important, these are three conditions which is important when you're suspecting these three conditions. That is, one is achalasia cardia, or you're unable to detect some kind of rib fracture. Yes, you can look into, and also looking for superimposed lesions. Now, coming back to you, once you have taken the film, what is important is the rotation. You have to see whether the film is complete and then the rotation. So you can see here, this is what is the clavicle ends, and this is the midpoint of the trachea. So you just look into this gap. So when these two gaps are of equidistance, that means that it is a well taken film. If there is a one-sided gap or the film is not properly taken, then it is you can say that the rotation is towards left or right. So remember the end of the clavicles, and then the point, you can on that and say that if it is equidistant, then you can say it as a well-centered film. This is what is required for us whenever we look in for. And then what else you have to look in for? You can look for counting the ribs. Either it can be from anterior or posterior. You can see here, this is how you can see. So these are the anterior parts and the posterior ribs. You can see here. So this is the posterior ribs and this is the anterior ribs. So this is how you have to pick it up. Why this is important is because one is you have to locate the fractures. Second one is whether to see whether it is a complete film or an incomplete film. So the number of ribs you have to see, I'll be telling you in my next slide. So what you have to mainly see is the ribs and then count it accordingly. So you can see here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you have to see at least 6 anterior ribs. So that is what is the minimum anterior ribs. You can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you're looking into the posterior, you should look into at least 10 ribs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10. So you have to count at least 10 posterior ribs or 6 anterior ribs. That will show you a good film. If you are looking in for less than 6 anterior ribs, if the number of ribs is less than 6, that means that the patient is having poor inspiratory effort. And if you see more than 6 ribs, that means that the patient is having hyper expanded lungs. So where do you see more than 6 ribs? Can you just type it in the chat box? Where do you see more than 6 anterior ribs? Very good. So many of them are active. So I can see many answers coming in. It is COPD or emphysema. Very good. So this is our tension pneumothorax also. So you look in for this particular thing and then you're done. Then the next point is when you're looking in for the diaphragm, you have to look in the right-sided diaphragm and the left-sided diaphragm. Usually the right diaphragm is a little bit higher than the left diaphragm. And then why? Because of the liver. it usually pushes up, and the spleen is the cardiac shadow is tending towards the left side, and the spleen is also there. And this is how it has been anatomically made. So the right diaphragm and the left diaphragm, if you see, it is 1 to 1.5 centimeters higher than the left diaphragm. That is what is the next point you have to see. Apart from it, what important is you have to mark. What is this mark? This is the costophrenic angle. Why is this important? Why is the costophrenic angle important? Can anybody message? You have to look for the costophrenic angles. Why should you look into costophrenic angle? Pleural effusion, very good. So whenever it is obliterated, you can say whether there is a pleural effusion or a hydrothorax or a empyema or anything like that. So you can differentiate all these things. So only thing is, if it is obliterated, yes. And if it is right-sided obliterated and left side it is not obliterated, we all know there is something in the right side, and vice versa. So this is what we are supposed to look in for costophrenic angle. Now what next? When you're looking at X-ray, you see all these things. So these are the things which you have to keep in your mind whenever you're noting the chest X-ray. So what are you going to look for? Go from the lateral, you can see the lungs, so you can see the scapula, you can see the shoulder joint first, then the scapula, the clavicles, and then you can see the carina, the aortic knob is here, the trachea is here, and then you can see the ribs, the cardiac shadow, and the left-sided one which is marking. You can see that this is a darker one and this is a lighter one. You can see the border which is made up of pulmonary artery. Here you can see the diaphragm, the costophrenic angle. This is the normal gastric shadow. And then here you can see the cardiophrenic angle, which is again important to note for the pericardial effusion. And you can see here, this is the liver shadow, which you cannot make it out. And here I've already mentioned the costophrenic angle and breast shadow. And you can see here, this is the pulmonary artery. Whenever it is marked high, you can look into and say it is pulmonary hypertension. And of course, lung and the scapula. So these are the things which you have to keep in your mind whenever you're looking in for a chest X-ray. When you look all these things, you will not miss out any kind of an abnormality. So you know the normal chest X-ray, only then you can say it is an abnormal thing. So looking for all these things, starting from your trachea till your stomach. So you can note down all these things, whether it is there. Okay, can I see the trachea? Can I see the clavicle? Can I see the heart? Can I see the rib shadows? So you just have to think whenever you see a chest X-ray for a few minutes, then you can never miss out any kind of an abnormality. So this slide is very, very important for you to keep in your position. Now, what are the things which you have to see as an hidden area, or you have an imaginary things? So on the right side and on the left side, for this is a normally placed cardiac which I am telling you. If it is a dextrocardia, then the sequel completely changes, but of course it is onto the other side. So in the right side, you can see the superior vena cava, the right atrium, you can see here. These are the two important structures which you can make in for. And then in the anterior aspect, you can look for the right ventricle. And then in the cardiac apex, when you can see that is a left ventricular appendage. And then if you follow it, that is the left ventricle. And onto the left side, you can see the left ventricle starting here, left atrial appendage, then pulmonary trunk and the aortic arch. So these are the few things which you can also see apart from what you had seen in the previous slide. So in the previous slide, you may not be able to tell all these things, but in this slide, you can see the few things which you might have missed it out, but here you can pick it up and say, okay, these are the kinds of an abnormalities. So we'll see to the next slide. The next one is your position of the mediastinum, or what are the things which is important in your mediastinum. So you can see here, This is the trachea, paratracheal region. Look for the supracardiac vessel area, which you have to see, and then lastly the heart. So this is the vital part which makes up for the mediastinum. So you can see here, these are the lungs, intercostal vessels, and then internal thoracic and internal mammary arteries. All these things can be made up of. But what we are important is the mediastinum, which you have to see. And whenever there is an air which you can look in for, here it is not there. But if it looks like a black color around the heart and extending here, then you have to think about pneumomediastinum. So this slide depicts you that, okay, I have to look into this one whenever I think about this patient having a pneumomediastinum, especially with road traffic accident patients who come in. Now, the next slide which you're going to see is about the normal cardiothoracic ratio. This is for the PA view alone. Please keep in your mind, this is for the postero-anterior view alone, because in the anterior-posterior view, you can see that the heart can be enlarged in size and you may not be able to make it properly. So this is the length you have to calculate, that is the A, and from one end of the costophrenic angle to the other end of the costophrenic angle, you can measure it. So A divided B, if it is less than 5.5, that means that it is the normal ratio of the cardiothoracic region. But you know that many a times in critically ill patients, you will be ordering only for the AP view. But many a times we order for X-ray, and we have to keep in our mind, that is the reason why I am stressing upon you have to mention for a PA view. Otherwise, the radiographer doesn't know what kind of a film you want. So this point you always have to note down and keep mentioning it. And in the supine view, you know that the heart tends to look very larger. So you may not be able to say the cardiothoracic ratio. So it can sometimes be misjudging you. So you have to keep in your mind what kind of a film you're going to see upon. Now, what next you can see on the X-ray? These are all imaginatory things which you can keep in your mind and look in for. Of course, when you think that one of them is enlarged, echo is the confirmatory one. X-ray will give you only a quantitative, or you can just say that, okay, this is the abnormality I may see upon. And then you have to correlate this. Once you see an X-ray, then you can order for an echocardiogram. So X-ray is not been outdated, but still plays a vital role in many clinical managements. So keep in your mind and look in for. So this is how it looks, and you can see here the right pulmonary artery just beside the superior vena cava, the aortic arch, the pulmonary artery, and then you can see the right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium. So these are the things you can imaginatorily place upon. Think for a minute, just close your eyes, 30 seconds to 1 minute. When you're looking into the X-ray, just take care of this. Then you're done. And you can depict any kind of an abnormality just looking into the X-ray itself. So when you see here, aortic arch, then the knob of the aortic arch. So this is the point where you look in for aortic aneurysm, because I'll be showing you one of the X-rays. Keep in your mind how the aortic knuckle is important, and the aortic arch, which will be enlarged, and you can say it of aortic aneurysm. Then the pulmonary artery, and then you can see the left pulmonary artery. This is all very difficult to look in for, but which is very important for us is aortic arch of aorta and the knob, and then superior vena cava, right atrium, right ventricle, and left atrium. So this is what you have to keep in mind. So if you take the lower part, you can see in the X-ray these three things, that is the right atrium, how it appears in a normally exposed film, right atrium, right ventricle, and left ventricle. So if you see a normal exposed film, you can readily make out this is what you're looking in for, and then you can mention whether there is an enlargement of the right atrium or right ventricle or a left ventricle. So accordingly, you can make a diagnosis clinically also. So you can see here how it looks. If the heart is enlarged and main pulmonary artery is big, then right ventricle is enlarged. You can see here. So the right ventricle, which you can see in the previous slide, the right ventricle here, if the if you can see here, and then you can see, you can just imaginary put a scale here, and if the heart is enlarged and the main pulmonary artery is also enlarged, you can readily say then it is mainly because of the right ventricle which is enlarged, and we all know what causes the right ventricular enlargement. And here you can see if this particular thing, then you can see here this part if it is enlarged more, and then you also see an aorta doubling. Very good. So then you can see of the doubling of aortic knuckle, then you can think of pulmonary embolism, or you can also think of the aortic aneurysm also, or it can be because of left ventricular hypertrophy or whatever causes the left ventricular damage. So this is how you can keep in your mind and look in for the cardiac enlargements, especially the right ventricle and the left ventricle. Now we'll see for the left atrium. You can see here when here this part of the area is enlarged, that is the left atrium may enlarge, producing double density here. So this is how it looks as a double density, and more common for left atrial enlargement. You can see that the left sided border, that is the, whenever the left sided border is straightening, then you can see that there is a double intensity, and look in and tell that okay, this patient has left atrium which is, so then accordingly you can think about the left atrium enlargement, what are the causes of it. So these are the things which you have to keep in your mind. Now anything else you can look in for? Yes, you can also look in for pulmonary artery and the aortic nerve. So we all know that there is an aortic knuckle which you all see accordingly here, and the main pulmonary artery also. So these are the two things which we can look in for. If the aortic knuckle alone is been enlarged, then we think about aortic abnormalities, and if the pulmonary artery is enlarged here, then you can start thinking about pulmonary artery abnormalities. Let it be pulmonary embolism, pulmonary artery hypertension, or anything like that. So you can get a clue and say that okay, this patient has this particular issue, I have to order for an echo. When I'm writing for an echo, this is what is the expected diagnosis. So whenever you order for an investigation, you just write a brief history of clinical history and then mention it. You will never forget about the diagnosis. So then coming to next important thing, that is your critical devices which is there. That is your ET tube or anything like that. So where is the endotracheal tube which has to be placed? Can anybody message which part of the X-ray should show you the tip of the endotracheal tube? So you can see the endotracheal tube here. This is the imaginary one which you are seeing here, and these are the different types you are going to see. So which is correct in this? Just above the carina, that is the correct answer. Yes. So that is the place where the endotracheal tube has to be placed. The vertebra which correlating vertebra should be is T4 or T5. That is the place where the endotracheal tube has to be ending upon. So these are the things which you have to look in for also, because once somebody is placing an endotracheal tube, they will usually order for an X-ray, and where exactly the endotracheal tube has been ending, we have to know. So these are the things which we have to keep in our mind. And the next important thing which in the critical care units or the emergency department we place is the central venous lines. And very important is once you place the central venous lines, we know that why we are placing the central venous lines. And this is the place where it has to be there. So the inferior border of the first anterior rib, and then it should be entering into the superior vena cava and just into the right atrium. That is the place. So you can see whether the tube, or you can mark it and see this is how we place the central venous catheters. And it has to pass through, and then it should be placing. You can see here the central venous catheter which is passing through into the superior vena cava and then ending into the just at the tip of the right atrium. So then you can get the perfect pressures in the right atrium to measure the central venous pressures. So this is how you can monitor for the central line and say where the central line is placed. So I hope all of you have understood the X-rays, how you have to depict INFOR, and now we'll go through some of the abnormal X-rays which is commonly seen in your day-to-day practice. So what do you think, so what kind of an X-ray is this? What is the abnormality here? So you're able to see the shoulder joints, both the side, and the exposure. I think it is more exposed because it is looking more like a darker film. And then you come from the lateral to the medial. The right side is totally looking like a whitish color. Right side, it is looking more like a whitish color, and the left side, you cannot see anything. And you see the costophrenic angle onto the right side, you are unable to see. You see it on the left side, you are able to make it out. And the cardiac shadow, you are unable to make it out. So most probably it is massive pleural effusion. So this is how, if you, when you are mentioning an abnormal X-ray, if you say, okay, this particular X-ray belongs to this particular patient, age is so and so, and this is what is it, whether it is a complete film or an incomplete film, and whether it is exposed normally or overexposed, then you go from the lateral to medial and then see your final diagnosis, then you're not going to miss out anything. So this is what is expected as a resident level, or even when we are practicing in our day-to-day practice. When we see like this, you cannot miss out anything. So these are the few important things which we are supposed to keep in our mind. Now, this particular X-ray, what is the abnormality here? You're looking for a complete film. Okay, this is a complete film. You can see the rotation, you're not able to make it out. It is looking almost normal. Trachea is midline, looking like midline, or it is just pushed a little bit onto the left side. You see onto the borders from the lateral side to the medial side. Are you looking any abnormality? Yes, very good. You can see that the air entry is not same when you compare with the lower lobe with the upper lobe. So very good. It is right upper and middle lobe consolidation. So this is what is expected from you. So what is the problem here? So are you seeing anything in the apexes? No. There is some abnormality here. When compared to the left side, it looks almost normal. Your costophrenic angles, both the sides look normal. There is nothing abnormal here. Cardiophrenic angles looking normal. Cardiac shadow, most probably it is looking like it has been taken in a PA view. Lung abscess, very good. So this particular patient has lung abscess on the right side. If you want to confirm, this is the time where you can take a lateral view and you can confirm. Fluid air level in a bulla, very good. So when you take a lateral view and view accordingly, you can see here this particular place where you are having an issue, and then you can confirm that this patient can have a lung abscess, or you have a facility for CT scan, you can go ahead and confirm it. Otherwise, you cannot, you can leave it there and say that this particular patient has lung abscess. So what is the problem here? So the rotation looks almost normal. Are you able to see the costophrenic angle? You're unable to see on the right side. Even the cardiophrenic angle is not seen. So you're able to see there is a clear cut marking here. You can see a clear cut marking. On the left side, it looks like a normal air windows, but on to the right side, right upper lobe only you are seeing, but the lower lobe you are unable to see. Very good. Hydropneumothorax. So this particular patient has hydropneumothorax. So what is the abnormality here? So the cardiac shadow looks like it has come back. There's some particular tube which is passing in here, and then you can see that, okay, there is nothing much. So chest drain, ICD tube has been put. So that is what you're seeing. So when you're mentioning something, you have to complete it. So the patient had a hydropneumothorax. So they placed a chest tube and look into whether it is draining properly or not. That is what is the next important thing. So what is the abnormality here? Can you locate anything here? Looks more like a tension pneumothorax. Very good. Usually in tension pneumothorax, you are not supposed to take an X-ray. You are supposed to do directly a needle thoracocentesis followed by ICD insertion. So that is what is important. Can you identify this particular X-ray? So it looks like a normal rotation. It looks like a complete film. It looks like a normal exposure. So the trachea is seen properly. There's some abnormality in the cardiac shadow. This is an isolated dextrocardia. This particular film shows isolated dextrocardia. So that is what is your answer, right? Correct. So what is the problem here? It looks like an overexposed film, I'm sure. So you're seeing more number of anterior ribs. So the patient has some kind of an issue. So are you able to see the cardiac? Yes. Hollow viscous perforation. Yes. Below, before that, you have to mention there is a gas under the diaphragm. So that is what you're supposed to see. So that indicates that the patient can have the hollow viscous perforation. So tell the abnormality and then tell your diagnosis. That is the best way to depict. So what is the abnormality in this particular X-ray? Anybody? It shows a butterfly-like appearance on both the sides. You can see here. And then there is a pneumothorax. And then this is usually seen in aspiration pneumonia, okay, or it can also be because of blast injuries, also because you can see multiple fractures here. So it is one of the kind of, that's the reason why clinical picture is important, okay. When I say the clinical picture, only then you can give the correct diagnosis. So what is the abnormality in this particular film? You are unable to see the costophrenic angle here. So this is again an hydropneumothorax. You can see the water level here. It's an hydropneumothorax. Very good. So what is this X-ray? You can see multiple. Looks like a normal exposed film, but it's not a complete film because you're not seeing both the shoulder joints. ARDS, very good. So there is multiple fluffy shadows all over the X-ray, and this is the time we all know that it is COVID season, and we first pick it up and say that this is acute respiratory distress syndrome. What is this? So it looks like a normal exposed film. Somebody is drawing here, please don't draw. And you can see here to the costophrenik angles. Yeah, you're able to see. And the cardiophrenic angles, yes, good. It's a simple pneumothorax. You can see the pneumothorax only here. It's on to the left side. So to complete the diagnosis, anytime you have to mention that where is the pneumothorax and whether it is tension or not simple, you can differentiate if possible. And it is the side which is important. Left-sided simple pneumothorax. Now, what do you see here? Any abnormality you can see here? The aortic knuckle is increased in size. The aortic knuckle is increased in size and the cardia is also enlarged. So both the things are involved. Mediastinum widening is there. Very good. So probably the patient has the cardiac enlargement and also aortic aneurysm. So both are present in the same patient. So what do you think again? This particular film? Very good. Again, this is another film showing ARDS appearance, severe ARDS. Severe ARDS picture. So what is this? So look into the abnormality. There is some abnormality here. There is some abnormality here. Right fissural edema, it can be one of the differential diagnosis, or there can be some kind of an infiltrates or lung infiltrates, and also you can see the heart shape. It looks as a classical boot-shaped heart, where you can see boot-shaped heart is right heart failure, that is the right answer, and also can be also pericardial effusion also can be seen, or TOF also can be seen. So whenever you're presenting an X-ray or you're discussing, this is how you have to keep in your mind before telling anything. So this particular X-ray belongs to such and such a patient, and mention the view and the position, whether all the areas are included, and then look into the soft tissue, coming to the bony cage, diaphragm, lung parenchyma, any life supporting devices are present. Only then, looking into all these things, you have to mention it is a normal X-ray or an abnormal X-ray. So this is how an X-ray film will be completed when you look in for it. To summarize, chest X-ray is always a skilled work. We order for it, we forget to interpret it. So please don't forget to interpret it, and always look for the technical quality. Systematic approach will never miss you out from making the diagnosis. Always have in your mind about the normal things. Only then you can say what is abnormal, and any life supporting devices are present. Yes, you have to mention it. So with all these things, thank you very much. So this is our board members of the ANBI. ANBI is Association of NBE accredited institutions.
Dr. Srinath, excellent exposition of interpretation of chest X-ray. I think a couple of questions. Someone wants to know about AP view in the chat box.
Yeah.
They're asking about a little more details about AP view. Please explain the best anatomical level in AP view for central line.
Yeah, when you place the central line, I showed you just you have to go through the clavicle, and then you can mark it upon, and you can see that where exactly it is present, and then you can see here. This is the best way. You see, you have placed the central line; it has to move, and where it is exactly, you can see here. This is the central line which you have placed. You can just go below the medial border, the clavicle or the first rib, and then track it upon, and then superior vena cava, and just at the tip of the right atrium. That is what is the thing which we have to look in.
So thank you very much for an excellent exposition. I think students would have cleared most of their doubts regarding interpretation of chest X-ray. Just a word of caution for students that when you, as Doctor mentioned, always write the clinical details for the radiologist to give you an opinion. Invariably, they just write chest X-ray PA, and no one knows what for it is asked for. And just another thing is always go back and make sure that you read the X-ray that you asked for and don't see it the next day. We've had the instances where in the ICU, chest X-rays have been asked for and pneumothorax have been missed, and then the patient becoming sick, and the next day they're putting in a chest tube. All these things are practically happening because people are not going back to, once you ask for an X-ray, especially in the ICU, you must make sure that X-ray is viewed as soon as it's taken. Otherwise, please don't ask for an X-ray if you're not ready to see it immediately. And of course, make sure that you're interpreting the correct X-ray of the patient with the proper IP number or the PRN number, and don't fail to mention the clinical details for the radiologist to give you some details. I think if there are no more questions, we'll end the session. Thank you very much for an excellent exposition, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.